The judge held the file with both hands. Thick manila envelope. Court seal unbroken. He read the label, looked at my sister, then at my parents sitting side by side behind their attorney. Then he looked at me. His voice was careful. Do they have any idea what's in here? I met his eyes and nodded once. What happened next took 11 minutes. The bailiff moved twice. My sister screamed loud enough for the clerk to flinch. My mother gripped the armrest until her knuckles went white. And my father just stared at the floor. The same way he'd been staring at it for 10 years. But that courtroom was the last chapter. The first one started on a Tuesday night in March with a porch light and a baby I didn't expect. Welcome back to Silent Revenge Stories. I'm Andrea, 34, a registered nurse in a small town in western North Carolina. 10 years ago, my sister left her newborn daughter on my porch and disappeared. My parents looked me in the eye and told me the baby was my problem. I raised her. I adopted her. And when all three of them came back a decade later demanding custody, I had one sealed file that changed everything. If you've ever been the reliable one in a family that only notices you when they need something, drop a comment and subscribe. Because this story is going to hit different. I was 24 that March, fresh off a 12-hour shift at the clinic. The kind of shift where you eat standing up and your scrubs smell like hand sanitizer and someone else's grief. I pulled into my driveway at 11. The porch light was on. I always left it on. The light was the first thing I noticed. The carrier was the second. Pale yellow padding, lavender blanket tucked tight around something small and breathing. I dropped my bag and knelt. The baby was asleep. Maybe 2 weeks old. Tiny fists curled near her chin, skin still blotchy and new. A nurse checks vitals without thinking. Steady, warm, fed recently. Then I saw the note. Folded once, tucked into the carrier. Lined notebook paper, torn at the edge. I recognized the handwriting before I read the words. My sister Amanda's loopy cursive. She never mailed birthday cards on time. Her name is Lily. I can't do this. Don't look for me. That was it. No explanation. No apology. No phone number. I looked up and down the street. Quiet. Amanda's car was gone. I scooped Lily out of the carrier and held her against my chest. She stirred but didn't wake. I called 911 with my free hand. Then I called my parents. Mom's phone went to voicemail at 3 in the morning. I called twice more. Nothing. Dad picked up on the fourth try, voice thick with sleep. I told him everything. He was quiet for a long time. I'll talk to your mother, he said, and hung up. By sunrise, I bought formula at a 24-hour Walmart, still in my scrubs, a newborn in a carrier on the checkout belt while the cashier gave me a look I pretended not to see. I drove to my parents' house at 8. Brick Ranch, American flag on the mailbox. I carried Lily to the front door and knocked. Dad opened it, but Mom appeared behind him, arms crossed, expression set. She didn't step forward. Didn't look at Lily. Your sister made her choice, she said. We warned her about Thomas. She didn't listen. Mom, this is a baby. She's your burden now. The words landed like a door slamming. Amanda made her mess. We're not cleaning it up. I looked at Dad. His mouth opened. Then closed. He didn't say a word. Mom shut the door. I stood on that porch holding Lily for a full minute before I turned around. Back in the car, Lily slept. I made 2 decisions. I would call Child Protective Services. And I would ask them to place Lily with me. The CPS social worker came the next afternoon. Her name was Dana. Mid-40s, practical shoes, clipboard thick with forms. She walked through my apartment, checked the smoke detectors, the locks, the water temperature. Small but clean. I showed her the second bedroom, empty except for a dresser and a box fan. I can have a crib by tomorrow, I said. My coworker has one in storage. Dana signed the temporary placement papers that evening with Lily in a borrowed bassinet beside the kitchen table. That was step 1. That first week was triage. I switched from night shifts to days. Cut every non-essential expense. Formula and diapers became line items in a spreadsheet on my phone. 5 in the morning became my anchor. Coffee brewing in the dark. Lily in the crook of my arm. I learned to do everything one-handed. Raising a baby is triage. You stop the bleeding first, you ask questions later. Lily smiled at 6 weeks. Rolled over at 4 months. Said something close to Mama at 9 months and I pretended it counted. By her first birthday, I had a rhythm. Morning shift, Lily at daycare, pick up at 4, dinner, bath, books, bed. The nurses at the clinic threw me a belated baby shower in the break room. Cake from Food Lion, onesies, a Target gift card that made me cry in the bathroom after everyone went back to their patients. I sent my parents a photo of Lily every single month. Email. Because Mom didn't text. Same message every time. Here's Lily this month. She's healthy and growing. You're welcome to visit anytime. Mom never responded. Not once. Dad replied exactly once. Month 7. She looks healthy. No follow-up. No visit. No call. I saved every email in a folder labeled family. I tried to find Amanda. Called her old number, disconnected. Searched social media. Asked mutual friends. She wasn't missing. She was gone. By month 12, I filed for temporary legal guardianship. My attorney, Karen, took the case at a reduced rate after hearing the story. She said something I wrote down and kept. Document everything. You never know when the people who weren't there will try to rewrite the story. I didn't know then how right she was. The hearing was in family court. Small courtroom, wood paneling, fluorescent lights that buzzed when the heat kicked on. Amanda had been served by publication. Notice in the county newspaper. The legal equivalent of shouting into a canyon. She didn't respond. Didn't appear. My parents were notified through their attorney. Margaret's letter arrived. We do not oppose guardianship, but request no further contact regarding this matter. The judge paused on that line. Is the respondent's mother aware she's relinquishing involvement? She is, Your Honor. He signed the order. Temporary legal guardianship of Lily Rose Porter granted to Andrea Elaine Porter. Karen put her hand on my shoulder in the hallway. This is step 1. Years 2 and 3 were defined by what didn't happen. 96 emails over 8 years. Lily's second Christmas, her first day at daycare, the afternoon she needed 3 stitches above her eyebrow. Mom never replied. Dad sent a Christmas card the second year. Store-bought poinsettias, signed to Dad. No note. No mention of Lily. Third year, nothing at all. Amanda surfaced once. Year 2. Charlotte area code. Her voice sounded the same, light, slightly rushed, like she was always halfway out the door. She didn't ask about Lily. She asked if I could wire her $300 for a security deposit. Do you want to know about your daughter? I said. The line went quiet for 5 seconds. Then she hung up. She called the following year. Same pattern. $500 for rent. Spoke fast. Didn't ask about Lily. Amanda, she's walking and talking and she asks about you. Do you want to see her? Amanda's voice sharpened. You owe me. You have my kid. I didn't raise my voice. She's not leverage, Amanda. She's a child. Amanda hung up. North Carolina is a one-party consent state. I recorded both calls. Karen had told me to. I logged every date, time, and summary in a spreadsheet. Each call confirmed the same thing. Amanda knew where Lily was, knew how to reach me, and chose contact only when she needed money. She never once asked what Lily looked like, what she ate for breakfast, or whether she slept through the night. Year 3. Karen filed for involuntary termination of Amanda's parental rights. Willful abandonment. 6 consecutive months without meaningful contact, support, or any attempt to resume parenting. She'd provided none of those things for 3 years. The hearing was brief. The judge reviewed the CPS record, the guardianship file, the documented absence. He terminated her parental rights. She hadn't even shown up. Adoption followed within months. I brought Lily to the finalization hearing. The judge asked Lily if she knew what was happening. Lily held my hand and said, "Mama said I'm getting adopted." The judge smiled. Signed the decree. Andrea Elaine Porter, legal adoptive mother of Lily Rose Porter. Walking out, Lily pointed at the flagpole out front. "That's a big flag, Mama." "It is," I said. That night I left the porch light on. Same as always. Lily pressed her nose against the screen door and said, "Light on, Mama." "Light on," I said back. I thought the hard part was over. Most people would. But family has a way of reappearing exactly when they smell something valuable. And what happened next proved that some people don't come back for love. They come back for money. Stay with me. Lily at 7 was a reader. Devoured chapter books the way other kids devoured chicken nuggets. Her teacher told me at the fall conference that Lily read at a 5th grade level and had an opinion about everything, delivered politely but firmly. I recognized that. Our morning routine was clockwork. 5 a.m. coffee. Lily padding into the kitchen 10 minutes later in bare feet. She'd eat cereal and tell me about her dreams while I made her lunch. I dreamed about a castle, Mama, with a moat, but the moat was full of orange juice. That sounds sticky. It was delicious. Our house was small. Same rental off the main road. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. But it had Lily's drawings on the fridge, a bookshelf sagging under library halls, and a kitchen table where we did homework and ate spaghetti and played Uno on Friday nights. Lily knew she was adopted. I'd told her when she was 5, in words she could hold. "Your birth mother wasn't able to take care of you. I chose to be your mama." She thought about it for a day, then said, "You're my real mama." I didn't correct her. She was right. This was the year Thomas Garrett found us. A letter arrived one Wednesday with a return address 40 minutes east, handwriting I'd never seen. Careful block print, the kind that comes from filling out invoices by hand. He explained himself in plain sentences. He'd dated Amanda briefly 8 years before she left town. She never told him she was pregnant. He never knew Lily existed until a mutual acquaintance saw a photo I posted of Lily at a school event. The resemblance, he wrote, stopped him cold. He asked if I'd be willing to talk. He didn't demand anything. Didn't threaten. Didn't mention lawyers. I called Karen that same day. "He has no legal standing," she said. "The adoption is final. But if you want to let him into Lily's life, that's your choice, not a court's." I thought about it for a week. Then I called Thomas. We met at a diner halfway between our towns. He was 33, broad-shouldered, calloused hands, quiet in the way some men are quiet. Not shy. Just efficient with words. He brought a photo of himself at Lily's age. The resemblance was obvious. Same wide-set eyes, same stubborn chin. We agreed on a DNA test. Results confirmed it. Thomas Allen Garrett was Lily's biological father. He didn't celebrate or cry. He sat across from me and said, "I missed everything. I want to do right by her." We set ground rules. Supervised visits once a month. He'd meet Lily as Mr. Thomas. No pressure on the word of father unless Lily chose it. He agreed to every condition without argument. And then Thomas did the one thing nobody else in this story had done. He showed up. First Saturday of every month, rain or shine. He brought Lily books about how bridges work, how houses stand up in storms. She loved them. Called him Mr. Thomas and peppered him with questions about whether you could build a treehouse that was also a library. With enough lumber.
Yeah,
He told her. After 8 months, she showed him her report card. He framed it in his office. Over that year, Thomas's construction business grew. Steady, not flashy. A second crew, a used excavator, contracts with 2 local developers. He lived modestly, drove the same truck, but he saved. One afternoon, sitting on my porch while Lily played in the yard, he told me what he'd done. I set up a trust, he said. Education fund for Lily. $80,000 to start. Life insurance names her as beneficiary. I stared at him. He kept his eyes on Lily, watching her chase a butterfly across the grass. I missed her first 7 years. I can't get those back. But I can make sure she's taken care of no matter what happens to me. He'd named me sole trustee. Not Amanda. Not my parents. Me. His attorney had drawn up the papers, and Thomas had filed a notarized affidavit stating that Amanda had abandoned Lily, that I was the sole caregiver, and that under no circumstances should the trust be transferred to anyone else. I didn't know then how much those words would matter. 6 months after setting up the trust, Thomas mentioned chest tightness at a Saturday visit. The nurse in me fired immediately. How long? Couple weeks. Probably just the job. Go to a cardiologist this week. He waved it off the way men in their 30s wave off anything that sounds like a doctor's appointment. 3 weeks later, my phone rang at 7 in the morning. His business partner, Dale. Thomas had collapsed on a job site. Heart attack, massive. Paramedics worked on him for 22 minutes. He was 35 years old. I sat on the edge of my bed and held the phone against my ear and listened to Dale apologize for calling so early, as if the hour was the part that mattered. Lily was in the kitchen eating cereal. I could hear her spoon clinking against the bowl. I told her after school. She sat on the couch with her backpack still on and cried quietly, the kind of crying where the shoulders shake but no sound comes out. She'd barely known him. But Mr. Thomas had shown up for her in a way that made those months feel like a lifetime. The probate took almost a year. Total value of the trust after probate, life insurance, and final contributions, $278,400. I was confirmed sole trustee. Thomas's obituary ran in the local paper. The last line read, "Survived by a daughter, Lily." I read those words and felt grateful and gutted at the same time. I didn't know anyone else was reading them too. The weeks after Thomas died were quiet in the way grief is quiet. Not peaceful. Just muffled. Lily still went to school, still did her homework, still said, "Good morning, Mama," at the kitchen table, but the spark was lower. She slept with the lavender blanket every night. The same blanket she'd been wrapped in the night Amanda left her on my porch. It was threadbare now, patched twice. Once with a scrap of pillowcase fabric. Once with iron-on tape from the craft section at Walmart. The patches didn't match. Lily didn't care. One night she climbed into my bed, something she hadn't done since she was 6. She pressed her back against mine and whispered into the dark. "Mama, why do people leave?" I turned over, brushed her hair back. Sometimes people aren't ready. Sometimes they're scared. And sometimes they don't get a choice. She thought about that. Mr. Thomas didn't get a choice. No, baby. He didn't. She fell asleep with the blanket bunched under her chin. I lay there for an hour, staring at the ceiling. The next morning I sat at the table and filed trust documents. Every receipt, every form, every letter from the estate attorney. My binder, the one Karen had told me to keep years ago, was getting thick. It had started as a folder of emails and CPS reports. Now it held guardianship orders, adoption decrees, trust paperwork, and Thomas's affidavit. 3 inches of proof that one person had shown up. Then I read Thomas's final paragraph slowly. It is my explicit wish that Andrea Elaine Porter remain Lily's sole legal guardian and trustee. Under no circumstances should custody or trust management be transferred to Amanda Marie Porter, or to Margaret and Robert Porter, who declined involvement in the child's life and refused repeated invitations to participate in her upbringing. He'd underlined "under no circumstances" twice. I folded the letter, placed it in the binder, locked it in the filing cabinet beside my bed. I read those words 3 times. Not because they surprised me. Because they felt like armor I didn't know I'd been fitted for. And here's where the story turns. Because what I'm about to tell you next reveals exactly how certain people work. How they move. And why keeping records isn't paranoia. It's protection. I didn't know how Amanda found out. Karen traced it later. Thomas's obituary was public. It named his business and included one line at the bottom, survived by a daughter, Lily. Probate records in North Carolina are public. Amanda searched the county court filings online and found the trust summary. Not the full document. But enough. The beneficiary's name. The approximate value. She called my mother that same week. I know this because Margaret admitted it in court when it no longer mattered what she confessed. Amanda's pitch was simple. Did you know Lily's father left her almost $300,000? Margaret's response, what? The 3 of them met at my parents' house. First time Amanda had set foot there in nearly a decade. Amanda laid it out. If they filed for custody and won, if a judge granted any form of shared arrangement or reinstated Amanda's parental rights, they could petition to change the trustee. Family court could reassign trust management from me to Amanda, or to a joint arrangement that gave them access. It was twisted logic. But it was real. This wasn't a reunion. It was arithmetic. Amanda hired a lawyer in Charlotte before she ever called me. Aggressive reputation, expensive retainer. She was already building a case before anyone knocked on my door with an olive branch. And then the olive branch came, and it smelled exactly like what it was. Amanda showed up on a Saturday morning. Lily was at a friend's house. Amanda stood on my porch, the same porch, wearing a pressed blouse, pearl earrings, and a smile that looked like it had been practiced in a car mirror. I opened the screen door but didn't invite her in. Andrea. She said my name like she was tasting it. I know I've been gone. I know I've made mistakes. But I've changed. I want to be part of Lily's life. She paused. We're her real family. The words sat between us like a dropped glass. You've been gone for 10 years, Amanda. I know, and you didn't call on her birthday. Not once. Not one time. Her jaw tightened. She recovered fast. Mom and Dad want to see her too. We all do. We've been talking. Mom told me Lily was a burden. That was her word. People change. Some do, I said. I'll think about it. I closed the screen door and watched through the mesh as she walked back to her car. She sat in the driver's seat for a minute before pulling away. I called Karen before Amanda reached the highway. If she's already been to a lawyer, Karen said, she's not here for a reunion. She's here for a case. The next week my phone started ringing. Margaret called first, her voice warm for the first time in 8 years. We've been meaning to reach out, sweetheart. We miss our granddaughter. Sweetheart. 8 years of silence and now I was sweetheart. I kept my voice level. I'm open to a supervised visit at a neutral location. Silence. Supervised? We're her grandparents. You requested no further contact. Your letter is on file with the court. She didn't have a response for that. Amanda texted me photos of toys. A stuffed unicorn, art supplies, a purple backpack with Lily's name embroidered on the front. For when we visit, she wrote. I didn't reply to the text. But I saved it. Dad called separately, awkward, stilted, reading from something. Your mother and I think it's time we all sat down as a family, for Lily's sake. I'd welcome that, Dad. I've been inviting you for 8 years. He didn't have a comeback either. I took everything to Karen. She spread the texts, the call logs, and the emails on her desk and drew a timeline. They're building a narrative, she said. The story they want to tell a judge is that you shut them out. Every message they send you is a future exhibit. Karen's instruction was precise. Respond to everything in writing, politely. Accept nothing without conditions. Create a paper trail showing I was reasonable and they were the ones who'd vanished. I did exactly that. The binder grew another half-inch. They didn't take the supervised visit. 3 weeks after Amanda's first appearance on my porch, a process server knocked on my door at 8 in the morning. Lily had already left for school. I answered in my scrubs, coffee in hand, and the man handed me a manila envelope with the county court seal. Petition for custody modification. Petitioner, Amanda Marie Porter. Co-petitioners, Margaret and Robert Porter. I stood in the doorway and read the summary. Allegation 1, the respondent has systematically alienated the minor child from her biological family. Allegation 2, family reunification is in the best interest of the child. Allegation 3, the co-petitioners have been denied access to their granddaughter. I looked up from the filing. Through Lily's open bedroom door, I could see her bed. Sheets pulled up neatly. The lavender blanket folded on top. Faded and patched and 10 years old. Everything started with that blanket. Everything came back to it. I closed the front door, set the envelope on the counter, and finished my coffee. Then I called Karen. They filed, I said. I know, she said. I got the notice 20 minutes ago. I've been preparing for this since you told me about Amanda's visit. Karen had already compiled our response. The sealed adoption file. 8 years of monthly emails. CPS records. Thomas's affidavit. The recorded phone calls. The timeline is September 3rd, the date Amanda accessed Thomas's probate records online. September 25th, the custody petition filing date. 22 days between discovering the money and pretending to discover motherhood. Karen said, everything we need is already in that binder. We just need the judge to open the file. Here's what Amanda didn't understand. I wasn't the sister she'd left behind with a baby and a problem. I was the woman who had spent 10 years building something unbreakable. One document at a time. One bedtime story at a time. One porch light left on at a time. And every single piece of it was in that file. Karen's office was 15 minutes from my house. Her desk was buried in files, but she could find anything in 30 seconds. She pulled out my binder, 3 inches thick, blue cover, tabs labeled in my handwriting, and opened it flat between us. Tab 1, the CPS report from the night of abandonment. Tab 2, Margaret's letter requesting no further contact. Tab 3, 96 monthly emails sent over 8 years. 96 sent. 1 reply. Month 7. Tab 4, Amanda's phone calls, the recordings, the transcripts. Both about money. Neither about Lily. Tab 5, the termination of parental rights and the adoption decree. Tab 6, Thomas's notarized affidavit naming me sole trustee and explicitly excluding Amanda, Margaret, and Robert. Tab 7, the timeline. September 3rd. September 25th. 22 days. Karen closed the binder. We're not going to argue with their lawyer, she said. We're not going to get emotional or give speeches. We're going to submit this file and let the judge read it. 9 years of documentation against 3 weeks of crocodile tears. She paused. You built this, Andrea. Every email you sent, every call you logged, every receipt you filed. This is your case. I looked at the binder, my handwriting on every tab. No, I said. This is Lily's. Their lawyer took my deposition in a conference room in Charlotte. Mid-50s, silver watch, the kind of lawyer who leaned forward when he asked questions like proximity was a tactic. He started soft. Miss Porter, you love Lily, correct? I do. And you'd agree a child benefits from knowing her biological family? I'd agree a child benefits from stability and people who show up. His smile thinned. He shifted. Isn't it true you refused to let Lily's grandparents visit? No. I sent monthly updates for 8 years. I have copies of every email. Would you like to see them? He didn't want to see them. He moved on. Isn't it true you concealed Lily's biological father from the family? No. Thomas Garrett contacted me. Amanda left without telling anyone she was pregnant, including him. You're managing a trust worth nearly $300,000. Don't you think the biological family deserves some oversight? Lily is my family, legally and permanently. The trust was established by her biological father, who specifically chose me as trustee. The moment that mattered came near the end. He asked whether I'd ever spoken negatively about Amanda to Lily. I looked at him evenly. I told Lily her birth mother wasn't ready. That's the truth. I didn't add adjectives. His pen stopped moving. Karen told me afterward he expected tears. He got a binder and receipts. Meanwhile, Margaret went to church. First Baptist, the one she'd attended since before I was born, where she organized the fall bake sale and sang in the choir. She told her version to anyone who'd listen. Our granddaughter was kept from us. Andrea wouldn't let us see her. We're just trying to be a family again. It worked on some people. I noticed it around town. Women who'd known me since I was 12 looked past me in grocery store aisles. The youth pastor asked awkwardly if everything was okay at home. I didn't fight it. Didn't go door to door with my binder. Didn't post on social media. I told one person. My supervisor and friend, Dr. Tran. She listened over coffee in the break room and said, "Why don't you set the record straight?" "Because I'm not on trial in the church parking lot," I said. "I'm on trial in a courtroom, and that's where the evidence goes." But Margaret's campaign had a crack in it. An older woman named Mrs. Brewer, who'd been Lily's Sunday school teacher and had babysat her twice when I was stuck at the clinic, cornered Margaret after a prayer meeting. "I've known that child her whole life, Margaret. Andrea never kept anyone away. You chose not to come." Margaret's face went blank. "You don't understand the full picture." Mrs. Brewer didn't blink. "I understand an empty chair. Lily found out the way kids find out everything. From another kid. A boy in her class told her at recess that his mom said Lily's real mom wanted her back. Lily came home quiet that afternoon. She did her homework without talking, ate half her dinner, took a bath without being asked. At bedtime she climbed into my bed. She hadn't done that since Thomas died. She pressed her back against mine and pulled the lavender blanket up to her chin. "Mama." "Yeah, baby. Are they going to take me away?" I rolled over and looked at her. 10 years old. Eyes that looked like Thomas's. Chin that looked like Amanda's. Heart that was entirely her own. "Nobody is taking you anywhere. You are my daughter. The law says so. My heart says so. And I say so." She searched my face the way children do when they're deciding whether to believe an adult. Then she pressed her forehead against my shoulder and closed her eyes. She was asleep in 5 minutes. I lay there in the dark listening to her breathe. The house was quiet. The porch light hummed faintly through the window. I didn't cry. I didn't call anyone. I lay still and counted the cost of what Amanda and my parents had done. Not to me. To a 10-year-old girl who'd spent a week afraid that the word real meant something other than what she'd lived. The next morning I called Karen before my coffee was finished. "Whatever it takes," I said. "I need this over." Karen filed 2 motions. The first requested that the sealed adoption records be made available for judicial review only. Not public. Not discoverable by the opposing party. But visible to the judge in chambers. Grounds: the records directly addressed the petitioner's legal standing. The second motion requested permission to introduce Thomas's notarized affidavit as evidence. Their lawyer objected to both. The judge granted both. Karen also filed what she called the timeline exhibit. 1 page. 2 dates. September 3, the day Amanda accessed Thomas's probate records online, verified by IP address log from the county's public records system. September 25, the day the custody petition was filed. 22 days. 1 page. 2 dates. The gap between discovering money and pretending to discover motherhood. Their lawyer requested a continuance. More time to prepare. The judge denied it. The child's stability is the court's primary concern. This matter will proceed as scheduled. Karen called me that evening. The hearing is set for October 14th. Everything we need is in that file. And if it's not enough, she paused. Andrea, you've been building this case for 10 years. You just didn't know it. The night before the hearing, I laid my clothes out on the bed. Navy blazer, white blouse, gray slacks. Conservative. Professional. Not trying to impress anyone. Trying to look like what I was. A nurse. A mother. A woman who kept records. Lily was asleep by 8:30. I made her lunch for the next day and left a note stuck to the bag. I love you. Dr. Tran will pick you up after school. I'll be home by dinner. I sat at the kitchen table with the binder. I didn't read through it. I'd memorized most of it by now. I just ran my hand over the cover, feeling the weight. Every tab was a decision I'd made. The night I chose to keep her. 96 months of reaching out to people who didn't reach back. 2 calls where Amanda asked for money and hung up when I mentioned her daughter. A letter that said, no further contact. A man I'd known barely a year who'd seen more clearly than my own parents what Lily needed. And the day a judge made permanent what I'd already decided in a parking lot 3 years earlier with a baby asleep in the back seat. I closed the binder and set it beside my keys. Walked through the house, checking locks, turning off lights, paused at the front door. The porch light was on. That same yellow bulb. Same warm circle on the concrete step. Tomorrow I'd walk into the same courthouse where I'd signed guardianship papers 9 years ago. This time I wasn't asking for permission. I was answering for what I'd built. 5 a.m. coffee. My hands shook slightly when I poured the water. First time. I held the mug with both hands and drank it standing at the counter, watching the sky lighten through the window. Then I got dressed, checked my reflection once, picked up the binder, and drove to the courthouse. Karen was waiting at the entrance in a charcoal suit, briefcase in one hand, takeout coffee in the other. She handed me the coffee without a word. We walked in together. The courtroom was the same one. Wood paneling, fluorescent lights, American flag in the corner. I'd been here 3 times before. Guardianship. Termination of parental rights. Adoption. Each time I'd left with more responsibility and less family. This would be the 4th. Amanda was already seated, wearing a cream blouse, pearl earrings, the same ones from the porch visit, and an expression of practiced concern. Hands folded on the table. Posture perfect. Margaret sat behind her, rigid as a fence post. Robert was beside her looking at the floor. I walked past them, didn't make eye contact, sat down at the respondent's table, opened the binder, and placed my hands flat on the cover. Their lawyer went first. He called Amanda to the stand. She walked to the witness chair with measured steps, dabbed her eyes with a tissue before she even sat down. Miss Porter, can you describe your relationship with the minor child? Amanda's voice trembled carefully. Lily is my daughter. I gave birth to her. I loved her from the moment she was born. And why did you leave her with your sister? Amanda looked at the judge. I was 26. I was alone. The father didn't even know. My parents were ashamed of me. I thought Andrea could give Lily a better life while I got back on my feet. Did you intend to return? Always. I always planned to come back. Did you attempt to reconnect with your daughter? Many times. But Andrea made it clear I wasn't welcome. She cut me off from my own child. Amanda straightened in the chair. We're her real family. Blood is blood. Margaret testified next. Same polished grief, same rehearsed helplessness. We begged Andrea to let us see Lily. She refused every time. Robert went last, reading from a note card in a voice that cracked twice. Family should be together. We want to know our granddaughter. We have a right to that. He looked up once. Caught my eye for half a second, then looked back at his card. His shoulders caved inward just slightly. Karen didn't cross-examine any of them. She made 3 notes on her legal pad, underlined one, and stood. Your Honor, with the court's permission, I'd like to direct the court's attention to the sealed adoption record of Lily Rose Porter, previously admitted for judicial review. Judge Harold Whitfield had the file in front of him. He'd been reading it while Amanda and my parents testified. Now he opened it fully, adjusted his glasses, and turned pages. His expression was neutral for the first page, neutral for the second. By the third, something shifted. A tightening around his jaw. A slight narrowing of his eyes. He read Margaret's letter. He read the CPS report from the night of abandonment. He read the termination of parental rights. Then he turned to Thomas's affidavit and read it slowly. His finger traced the final line. The part where Thomas had underlined, under no circumstances, twice. He read it again. Set the file down. Removed his glasses. Looked at Amanda. Looked at Margaret and Robert. Looked at their lawyer. Then he looked at me. Miss Porter, he meant me. Does the petitioning party have any knowledge of the contents of this file? I understood what he was asking. Whether Amanda and my parents knew what they were up against. Whether they understood the weight of what they'd walked into. Your Honor, I said, my voice even and quiet. They were present for every event documented in that file. They chose not to act on any of them. Judge Whitfield held my gaze for a moment. Then he turned to Amanda's attorney. Do they have any idea what's in here? I nodded once. Slowly. Karen walked the court through the file piece by piece. Not rushing. Not raising her voice. She laid out facts the way I lay out vitals on a patient chart. Measured, sequential, impossible to misread. Your Honor, the petitioner alleges systematic alienation. The record tells a different story. She held up the email log. The respondent sent 96 monthly emails to Margaret and Robert Porter over an 8-year period. Each included a photo of Lily and an invitation to visit. Responses received: 1. From Robert Porter, month 7. She read it aloud. She looks healthy. Silence. That was all. She held up Margaret's letter from the guardianship hearing. Read it in full. Then she read the text from the night of abandonment. She's your burden now. Amanda made her mess. We're not cleaning it up. The courtroom went still. Margaret gripped the edge of the bench with both hands. Karen turned to Amanda's phone calls. The petitioner made 2 phone calls to the respondent in 10 years. Neither inquired about Lily's health, education, or welfare. Both requested money. She played 15 seconds from the second recording. Amanda's voice, clear and sharp. You owe me. You have my kid. Then the timeline. 1 sheet on the overhead projector. 2 dates. September 3rd, the day Amanda accessed Thomas Garrett's probate records online, verified by IP address. September 25th, the day the custody petition was filed. 22 days, Your Honor, between discovering that the child's deceased biological father left a trust valued at $278,000 and filing this petition. She paused. This case isn't about a child. It's about a trust fund. Their lawyer objected. Judge Whitfield looked at him over his glasses. Overruled. Karen read Thomas's affidavit aloud. The full text. When she reached the final line, under no circumstances should custody or trust management be transferred to Amanda Marie Porter, Amanda's hands dropped to her lap. Judge Whitfield took less than 5 minutes. He didn't retire to chambers. He didn't call a recess. He spoke from the bench with his glasses in one hand and the sealed file in the other. He listed the facts without emotion. Amanda's parental rights had been involuntarily terminated 7 years prior for willful abandonment. She had not contested. Had not appealed. The adoption was final, lawful, and properly executed. The petitioner had no legal standing to seek custody modification. The petition is denied and dismissed with prejudice. On the grandparent visitation claim, the co-petitioners voluntarily disengaged from the child's life for the entirety of her upbringing. The evidence overwhelmingly demonstrates the respondent made consistent, documented efforts to include them. Furthermore, the timing of this petition, filed 22 days after the discovery of the child's inheritance, raises substantial concerns regarding the motivating factors behind this filing. The request for court-ordered visitation is denied. Amanda stood before the judge finished speaking. Her chair scraped the floor. That's my daughter. Her voice split the courtroom. You can't do this. She's my blood. You stole my child. She pointed at me. You stole everything. The bailiff stepped forward. Their lawyer reached for Amanda's arm. She yanked it away. This isn't over. The judge's voice cut clean. Remove the petitioner if she cannot maintain order. The bailiff escorted Amanda to the hallway. Margaret stood and followed, chin high, jaw locked. Robert was last. He paused at the door. Looked at me. One long, quiet look. Then walked out. The courtroom emptied. Karen touched my arm. It's done. I sat there for a moment. The fluorescent lights buzzed. The clerk filed papers. The American flag in the corner hung still. I picked up the binder, tucked it under my arm, and walked out. I drove straight to Dr. Tran's house. Lily was sitting on the front steps, shoes untied, reading a book. She looked up when my car door opened and started running before I was halfway across the lawn. What happened? I knelt on the grass and held her face in my hands. Nobody is taking you anywhere. Not today. Not ever. She hugged me hard enough to bend my blazer collar. We drove home with the windows down. October in the foothills when the mountains turn copper and the light goes gold by 4 in the afternoon. Lily hummed a song from school, something about kindness, slightly off key. We pulled into the driveway. The porch light was on. It had been on that morning when I left, and it was still on now, the way it had been on every night for 10 years. Lily ran up the steps and turned the doorknob. Come on, Mama. I stood in the driveway for one more breath. Then I went inside. We did homework, made spaghetti, played Uno. Normal evening. Normal was the victory. A week later, Margaret called. I hope you're satisfied. This was never about satisfaction, Mom. This was about Lily. You turned this family into strangers. You were strangers the night you closed your door. The line went quiet. She hung up. I put the phone on the counter and started making dinner. Amanda disappeared again. Back to silence. This time, the absence was mine to choose. And choosing it felt different from enduring it. Robert sent a letter 2 weeks later. Handwritten. 3 lines. I should have done better. I know that now. I'm sorry. I read it at the kitchen table while Lily did homework across from me. I didn't show it to her. I folded it, placed it in the binder between the adoption decree and the trust documents, and closed the cover. I didn't throw it away. I didn't write back. Some apologies arrived too late to need a response, but too honest to deserve the trash can. That Saturday night, I stood on the porch after Lily went to bed. Crickets and cool air and the mountains dark against the sky. 10 years ago, I'd stood in this same spot and picked up a baby wrapped in a lavender blanket with a one-line note pinned to her carrier. Now that baby was inside, 10 years old, safe, sleeping with the same blanket patched twice and loved past threadbare. Family isn't a word you inherit. It's a promise you keep. One morning at a time. One bedtime story at a time. One porch light left on at a time. And nobody who walked away from that promise for 10 years gets to redefine it in a courtroom. 96 emails. 2 phone calls about money. 1 lavender blanket patched twice. 1 binder 3 inches thick. 1 sealed file that held 10 years of proof that showing up matters more than showing up only when there's something to gain. If you've ever been the one who stayed, who chose the hard road, who gave the quiet love nobody applauds, this story was always yours. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe, and I'll see you next time.